Hello and welcome to Write It, Create It, Live It. My name's Celine Barker, career and life design mentor, author, founder of Project You, and creator of the Goodbye Hello journals. And in this series, I sit down and talk to the people who have been using these journals over the years to help them design lives that they love. And today's episode is such an exciting one. I sat down and talked to Dani, who's been doing these journals for the past 3 years. She does it with her sister and a really good friend of hers, so they do it in a group. And in another episode, we'll be talking about the power of doing the journal and then getting together with people to share what's emerged in the journal and hold one another accountable, particularly as you go through the year and stick to those quarterly check-ins. But in this episode, we talk about the huge career leap that Dani is in the process of making right now at the moment. The reason this is so exciting for me is I've been helping people make career changes, big and small, for the past 2 decades. So I'm often guiding people through the transition that Dani's going through right now. But it's really exciting for me to bring to you a conversation with someone who is in the middle of that leap, because it is terrifying and exciting in equal measure. And Dani's really committed to telling people the real story about making a career leap like the one that she is making. Because so often we can look back and make sense of it all, make it all look tidy and clean, and I took this step and next step, and then suddenly I was in a new career. But it's never like that. It is always messy. And often that change begins, as we discussed with Dani, when you hit rock bottom. Now, that is a really tough place to find yourself in life. However, I'm a big believer that it's when we hit rock bottom that we often find some real treasures. And that is the beginning of the journey, where the only way is up. And it's often where we need to get to find our way onto the path that is right for us. So I was so delighted to be able to dive into this conversation with Dani and to hear how at the start of the year, when she was stuck in a corporate job that was making her miserable, she set an intention in her Goodbye Hello journal when she had no idea what journey lay ahead of her. She hadn't planned that she was going to quit her job. She didn't know what she was going to end up doing having quit her job. But the answer, without her knowing, lay in her intention. I'll let her tell you exactly what that was. So hit play and let's dive in.
So I've been doing the journal for 3 years. I've got 22, 23, and 24, and 25 is on the way. I can't wait.
Amazing.
Yeah, beautiful colour scheme of them, soon to be added to a New Year's orange one this year, right? Isn't it?
Yes, it is. It's this one, I've actually. Well, you've probably seen it.
Oh,
got your copy.
beautiful. Yeah, I love that you've got your nails matched to the cover as if it was planned.
What?
I have gone through this process of filling out the journal each year with my sister and our
Yeah.
mutual friend Danielle. So there's 3 of us, and
Yeah.
we have been this little accountability group since I started. So I've done it with the same 2 people. One I'm related to, one I feel like I'm almost related to, and we meet every quarter. So as the book suggests, meeting at the end of every quarter and then the beginning of each new year, to hold each other accountable, to listen, to be each other's cheerleaders. And it's become a really emotional space on Zoom. I've never been someone who's kept a diary and I don't journal. If you ask me what I did in 2024, I'd probably give you 3 big life events from the top of my memory. But if I open this book, and I'm going through each quarter and the people I'm grateful for, the experiences that have shaped me, what I've learned from things not going the way I intended them to go, it's really powerful to have that documented.
Yeah.
So for someone who doesn't keep a diary, I really enjoyed these journals to document my life in an authored way. It's quite magical to look back and see and almost like track the evolution of your thinking from events. Or, you might note down, okay, at the start of the year, what am I particularly proud of? Or what kind of life do I want to create for myself? Or who are the people that I want to spend time with and I feel good around? That shapes the way that you then go on to take action. And I think that level of introspection paired with the ability to diarize your life in quite a raw way is really powerful. I think what's interesting about the journals is they're part of my toolkit of evolution. in terms of like who I want to become as a person.
Oh, I love that. It's a tool for your evolution. That's absolutely amazing. So tell us about your journey at the moment and this big change you're embarking on, because it seems very exciting.
Oh, thanks, Selena. Yeah, exciting and terrifying.
Of course. Of course. There's no other way.
Yeah. Yeah. So I've spent the last 14 years in a corporate career. So long days at various tech companies in big roles. And, from my LinkedIn profile, it would look incredibly snazzy and impressive. And certainly the first half of this year, I was traveling all around the world and staying in beautiful places and doing really impactful work in the tech space and had big teams and all of that stuff. You look at my life from the outside and you think, wow, you've got the ideal career. And what was happening behind the scenes was this deepening sense of misalignment. And that was something that I was documenting and had been documenting through the journal over the last few years, which is my priorities in life have shifted. And my priorities have shifted away from relentless pursuit of wealth and promotion and the kind of upward trajectory on the career ladder to living a life of meaning and service to other people and having impact in my local community and volunteering, being closer to my family, my parents who are aging, being a really good friend, building a family unit, hopefully having kids at some point. And so all of that has been this mess in the last couple of years of like, I know I want to be doing this. And yet I'm spending 95% of my time doing something else. And so it kind of came to a head mid-year this year where I really realized that I needed to make quite a significant shift in my life to do something different. And so I ended up handing in my notice at my dream job, and much to the surprise of pretty much everyone in my life, all of my teams, I stepped away from that job and am now building a completely new life, which is really exciting. But I won't, I don't want to glamorize it. It's also really scary because my whole success metric up until now has been the traditional model of, being in corporate life, being a really good worker, kind of working as long and as much as you needed to get to the next level or to, serve your team. And now I'm thinking about success in a completely different way.
So what's the new life?
So the new life is much more focused on the outdoors. And so there are various different streams to it. It's a portfolio career right now. So there are 3 different aspects to it. One is wildlife presenting. So I go outdoors into nature and I present and I share stories from around the world in terms of people living differently and communities that are doing really interesting stuff. There's a sustainability angle, nature angle, basically involves day-to-day me just getting out in a pair of wellies and just being in awe at the world around us.
And is that you asking someone, can I come and interview you? And you're doing it with your own channel or are you doing it for someone?
A little bit of both. So at the moment, I'm doing a lot on my own and building up experience. Like honestly, I'm a beginner again in my mid-30s, and so I am. I'm got a YouTube channel. I've kicked off there. I'm producing videos every week in the outdoors. So I'm getting out and doing hikes, and I do ultra marathons and diving and climbing. It's who I am, right? I'm stepping into who I am and I get to document it along the way, which is just a dream. And then it turns out that, other people want to hear about that story and support me along the way. So yeah, I'm thinking about partnering with broadcasters and companies and brands. But yeah, it's really, I'm 8 weeks into it. So it's brand new right now and I don't know what's to come. So that's one part of it. And it's interesting because I used to do some presenting at different jobs that I've had many years ago. But I've always kind of wanted to be presenting and wanted to be in the outdoors. And now to actually be doing it is quite special.
You are the videos that I have seen, you are such a natural. So I was just like, but wait, has she always been presenting? But now she's doing her own thing, like, because you're so natural at it. The videos you make are brilliant. And I just love that you haven't waited for someone to give you permission to say, you can do this role now. You're like, I'm doing this. and you're taking it so seriously. You're doing it at such a high level of production, and it's so like magnetic is the word I want to use. Like, you're so drawn to the content you're creating. I can totally see you with that energy just going out there and like making it happen. It's just so inspiring to see someone going, I'm doing this. Well, who has let you do it? Absolutely no one. I have, and that's exactly what I talk about. It's wonderful to see someone like just really doing it.
Yeah, that means a lot. Thank you. It's really easy for it to look easy.
Yeah.
But behind the scenes of that, and I'm loving that comes across. It's been really tough to shed the identity of who I was.
Oh my goodness.
This
Yeah.
corporate businesswoman into having the bravery to click post on YouTube for the first time and saying like, yeah, this is who I am now. And hey, like big teams that I managed at my corporate roles, like, hey, yeah, your old boss has quit to post videos on YouTube. It's like, it was a death to my ego in a really good way.
Yeah.
It's been a really interesting ride. And I was thinking before when I was just thinking about how this call would unfold. My word of the year for 2025 is intrepidity. To be intrepid.
Ooh,
So venturing bravely into unknown territory, a quality of spirit where courage shines through. And then I wrote this in January. It will be an intrepid year for an intrepid explorer.
Did you know you were already planning this?
No.
Stop.
I didn't know. Yeah, I didn't know.
I mean, I've got 1,000 questions. Well, first of all, how did you go from feeling like the way you were working, the hours that you were working, the environment in which you were working really wasn't working for you, to then at the start of the year setting that intention of intrepidity? Was it intrepidity?
Yeah.
Hadn't even heard that word before. And then realizing what it was you actually wanted to do. Tell us a little bit about that process. I'm fascinated.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. I would say that I feel like I've received a number of nudges in life over the last year or so. People I've met, experiences I'd had, life events that have happened where I've been reminded that I'm out of alignment with what I should be doing and where I should be having impact. And one of the biggest things for me was that my dad was diagnosed with incurable leukemia earlier this year. And
Wow.
it was almost the final piece of these like series of nudges that I needed to make a change, because I was spending so much of my time out of the country, on these amazing work trips where I was presenting and doing awesome stuff around the world, mostly in Asia at the start of this year. But there was a part of me that was really sad inside that I wasn't with my family, and that I was single and that I wasn't building a family. And, I think having the sudden reminder that there was the end is drawing closer for my dad was a big nudge to say, what are you waiting for? There's something here that you are ignoring, and you're continuing to ignore it, although it feels like it's burning and burning and exploding out of you. What else are you waiting for? And I think that was really the nudge that I needed. And so I found that out in February this year, and then sat with the information, trying to figure out what it meant for the family. And I think it was around June, July this year that I started to have the conversations with work around stepping back. So yeah, it was
like seconds ago that this all happened.
Yeah, and then I finished at the end of September. So it's been a really turbulent year in terms of life change. But I will say that period between, February and making the decision June, July time, I had to do a whole lot of soul searching. And that was the moment of figuring out what kind of person I wanted to be. Like, it really feels like a big fork in the road in terms of my career, my life, the person I'll go on to meet, the communities I might go on to build, the mother I may or may not go on to be. All of that stuff felt like, okay, you've got quite a significant decision here.
Yeah.
And although I don't believe that, the fork in the road means that you can never retrace, or you won't find another fork that, takes you back to that original path, it did feel quite significant at the time.
Well, this is the year of the snake. So it's the year of shedding, which I've been learning all about this. So it's all about shedding. So all you're talking about, like the identity, shedding the identity. And I was reading that it's about really laying the foundation so they have fertile soil, because next year, 2026, maybe this year when people are watching, is the year of the horse.
What does that mean?
Action.
Oh, fantastic.
Go, and make
okay.
Yeah. So I love it. So you have been, it sounds like, really shedding. So in that, like, soul searching, what did that look like? How did you find those answers?
Yeah. Honestly, I mean, I'll be completely honest with you. I hit a bit of a rock bottom. I found out the news about my dad. I got dumped by someone who I saw a future with. I went through an egg freezing process. I got, one of my friends passed away, actually. There was a number of things happened. I thought, how can this kind of get any worse? And I realized that I had to go through that process to get to the part of soul searching really honestly and rawly, and not depending on any of those things being in existence, but like genuinely, what do I want for my life? And what that looked like was a couple of weeks of moping on the sofa, just, thinking, where do I go? What do I do? Who do I want to be? And then it started to feel a bit more strategic. I read lots of brilliant books, started really soaking up a lot of podcasts, obviously had the quarterly check-ins, which kept me accountable and kept me with some form of like sane community that was like, are you still there, Dani? Hold on.
Yeah.
I don't know which way you're going to go, but we're going to kind of be with you either way. Leaning on a brilliant community of friends, family and friends to give me counsel. And, I lent on some wonderful minds to ask them honestly what they thought I should do. There was one path where I could continue to work in senior corporate life for the next 15 years and, travel around the world and have these big jobs and jump from different tech companies. And there's another version of the life that could look like following a dream that felt perhaps that it would never be feasible, maybe never earn me any money. Maybe I'll just do lots of community work and volunteering and live a smaller life, probably financially and maybe in terms of like scope as well. And I had to wrestle with all of that. But I found clarity quite quickly through all of those different tools and forms of advice.
Do you think deep down you did actually know what you wanted to do?
I think so. And I think it comes back to what I was saying about that sense of misalignment. There was this like gnawing feeling inside me that I was on the wrong path. But I think it's really difficult to create space to actually listen to that. And what created the space for me, because I didn't create it for myself, was like everything falling away, everything going wrong. And me lying on the sofa feeling miserable gave me the space to plan what was next. So I honestly think that was my making.
Yeah, the hitting rock bottom. And I get so excited when people finally hit the rock bottom, because I'm just like, obviously, I try to temper the excitement when they're in there, because it's not really what you want to be met with someone. Yay!
Yeah.
But it always, we hit the rock bottom and we find these treasures down there. And then there's only one way. The only way is up. But it is invariably when people go through these losses, these breakdowns, these hitting that rock bottom, that actually that's often what the journey looks like. It's not all, and then we can look back and you're not doing this, but sometimes people look back and they'll sort of cleanse the whole story so it looks all tidy and, and then I did this, and this, and this. But actually, most of the time, we don't make these changes or really get honest with ourselves about what we actually want until we're forced into it by loss, by grief, by heartbreak, by hitting that rock bottom. And I'm so sorry for all that you have been through this year. That's a lot in 1 year. And how amazing that the sort of beautiful silver lining of it is that it's got you onto the path that is so exciting for you. So we've got, and I just love the fact that you wrote at the start of the year, before you knew any of this was going to happen, you wrote Intrepidity.
I know
what you're doing.
It's crazy. And, I just want to go back to that rock bottom piece, because I think when we talk about rock bottom, we focus on the bottom, right? But what I think is so magical about the rock bottom is the rock, is that you find the rock. You actually are tethered to something. You've got your feet on, you didn't want to be there, but you're on solid ground. And through in that space, you're finding like who you actually are, what you want to stand on. And so for me, it was about almost clearing everything away, relationship, family, job, health. Who am I with all of that cleared out? Who do I want to be? What kind of life do I want to build? And that was the first step to where I am now.
God, I love that. You're so right, because until you hit rock bottom, you're in free fall.
Yeah.
And you hit that rock bottom, you're right. It's actual solid ground where you finally realize this is who I am and this is what I want. All right.
You're kind of splatted on the rock. Yeah. You're like, oh, at least I
in tears.
I
really am.
Yeah.
But it's true. It's that rawness that you say. Oh my God, that's so beautiful.
So one element of this new life is outdoors presenting. And so the dream is, I'm doing a lot of stuff by myself and for different kind of smaller brands at the moment. But the dream is to be adventuring outdoors, Lara Croft style, meeting communities around the world, being that woman who does it all, climbs, dives, hikes, runs ultra marathons, just like gets out there. That's just my dream. The second piece is a little bit more desk-based, which is marketing consultancy. So my whole career in corporate life has been in marketing. So
right,
I'm very comfortable in that space and will likely in the next few months want to figure out how I can start partnering with brands who are kind of ethically aligned and probably in terms of like aligned within the nature and wildlife industry or outdoors brands, and figure out how I can partner with them to help support their growth. So that's the second pillar. And then the third pillar is speaking and moderating and hosting events, panels, some guest lecturing. So I'm actually going back to King's College where I studied to do a guest lecture for the executive MBA series in a couple of weeks' time. And there's a few things popping up there which are more focused around the career change aspect. So this has been a bit of a surprise to me, but I think because I've taken such a life leap and rejected corporate life at a relatively young age to do something wild and outdoorsy and, what people would call brave, there is some interest in why I've done that and how I've done it. And so I've been pulled in by a couple of different companies and organizations to talk more about career shifts and what that can look like in reality. So didn't expect that third pillar, but I'm just going with it.
yeah, absolutely. Oh my goodness, I love it. Was there a moment where you suddenly were just like, was there like a moment a day when you were just had that real bolt of like, I'm doing it, I'm going for it? Or did it sort of gradually take shape, the clarity around it? And so slowly but surely you were like, okay, let me look into having a YouTube channel, and what would that look like, and pulling the pieces together?
So I think one of the biggest things to say is that when I left work, I had no idea what I was going to do afterwards. So I didn't do any planning for the YouTube, for the presenting, for the marketing consultancy, or for the speaking beforehand. Hand on heart. People were asking me in my old teams, and my boss was very curious, and lots of folks who I worked with previously were like, "You said you're leaving, you don't know what you're doing, but what are you doing really? Where are you going?
Yeah. Where are you going?
Exactly. You're going to update your LinkedIn status to in 2 weeks' time." And I was like, genuinely, I haven't got another job, and I honestly do not know what I'm going to be doing.
How did it feel for you saying that to people? And yeah, that's all I'm going to ask for now. How did it feel for you to say that? I don't know what I'm doing. Yeah.
And honestly, I felt embarrassed by it because it's so rare that A, you would leave a job like that, but B, that you would leave with nothing to go to and no source of income and no real plans as to how you're going to get there. So I was almost saying it with like and I don't quite know yet. And I was almost skirting around it because I felt embarrassed to admit it. But I knew in my heart, and this is really, again, just coming back to the rawness of the emotion behind it all. I knew that I couldn't make an informed and smart decision about what to do next without taking some time to really think it through.
Right.
My job, corporate side, was so intense that I didn't have the space in terms of like mental clarity and time to really think it through. So it was only in the first week after I left and I thought, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? And And obviously then it's a case of you are looking into all your passions. You're thinking, well, what's worked for me previously? Like, how do I want to spend my days? How do I want to have impact? Who are the kind of people and communities that I want to serve and help? And I was already doing a bit of that on the side. I'm a trustee for a wildlife charity. And so I want to do more of that and starting to attend events. And then it kind of just emerged from there. And I think the YouTube idea came about because very quickly I realized that a lot of my friends were curious about what my days were looking like. People were, calling me like, hey, are you sitting back watching Lorraine today? I'm like, no, I'm stressed. I'm anxious. I'm like looking at my bank account thinking, well, this is only going down, and I'm sweating and trying to meet as many people and network. And then I realized that no one is honest about these transitional periods of life. And you look on Instagram at, the few people I know who've left a big job and started something else. And you see this like silence for a few months, up to a year. And then it's like, I've launched a brand and we're featured in Vogue. It's like amazing.
Because it's identity.
Yeah.
It's so much about that status that we find ourselves anchored to through our work, that it's like, and that's why I was so interested to hear, and I'm not at all surprised at how it was to be saying, I don't know. Yeah. And I don't know who I'm going to be or what I'm going to, because the rest of the world is like, well, she is not okay. Because we're not okay. We're so uncomfortable with the unknown, and other people get uncomfortable. Some people will have found it totally inspiring, but a lot of the time people don't get it. And also that's why you have that silence until they can say, new sparkly identity. Now you can anchor me to that. This is hello world. Now I can present myself. And there's a brilliant, if you haven't seen it before, go and watch it. It was one of Steve Jobs. He did an inaugural speech for Stanford, I think. And it's such a stunning speech. He talks about his journey. And one of the things he says is, it's so easy to look back and connect the dots. But most of the time, we are, in fact, all of the time, we're completely blindfolded. We have no idea what lies ahead. We are faced constantly with the unknown and uncertainty, and everyone is just feeling their way in the dark. And I was like, oh, in this is what I talk about, sanitizing, that journey when we sort of tell the story and make it all look all clean. And then I did this and then I did that. And actually the real story, like you say, the true story is like, I didn't have a fucking clue.
Yeah. I love what you just shared. And I'm really keen that we talk about that more, because I am trying to resist getting sucked into that very normal cultural mindset of like, how are you identifying your job title now? Who are you? And what do you do? And all of this, well, I can give you 15 things that I love doing and I'm kind of doing every day, and I've got lots of spinning plates, but I can't streamline myself into a sanitized version of something right now, because I'm in this like fast period of evolution and discovery and experimentation. And the reason that I started the YouTube channel is because I wanted to talk openly and as vulnerably as I can about that, and how rare it is that we see people saying, I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm going to figure it out. And like, take a look at how messy this can be without knowing where I'm headed.
It can only be messy. Yeah. There is like, another great analogy would be the butterfly. And so the caterpillar goes in the cocoon, and in that transformation where it's turning from one identity into another, it literally is goo and has no idea what it is. It's just like, it is total goo. It is total mess. And then it sort of pieces itself back together. But that's the reality of transformation. That is the reality of change and bringing about change. And I love that you're all about evolution. I'm a huge believer that we are here to grow, that is what we are hardwired for, is to grow and to evolve. And at the same time, human beings find change and uncertainty in the unknown utterly terrifying. So it's like there's these two sides of us that are kind of completely opposed to one another. One side is like, let me grow and evolve and change. And the other side is like, just stay still and don't do anything risky. We're so risk averse. So we want to hear the stories where it was really sanitized and it was clean. And then I had this brainwave, and then I did this and it all worked out perfectly. And it's like, it doesn't happen like that. It's like, they're missing out the parts where they were lying on the sofa and not getting up and snotty crying, and then I mean, leaving a job and leaping into the unknown like that, I did that as well. I absolutely did that a million years ago when I left my one job that I ever had for any length of time. And I left it. My parents were like, as long as you go, but don't leave it until you found something else to go to. And I was like, look, great advice. And then
Yeah.
they're like, did you? And I was like, no, I just gave him, I don't know what I want to do yet. I want to go and explore and paint and write. And they were like, no, why? Oh my God. And it was the best decision I ever made. And like you say, if I hadn't given myself that space, I would never have found my way onto the path I needed to be on. And it was never going to, I always say as well, people often sort of lie in bed trying to think about what they want to do with their lives. I was like, how in the world are you going to figure out what you want to do with your life through lying and thinking? You figure it out through the doing, by experimenting
and seeing how it feels and who you meet and where you're inspired. Absolutely that. But like, I will say as well, what a privilege it is to be able to take that leap and to be able to experiment. And it's not something that everybody has the circumstance that they can do. So it's also, I just want to kind of caveat by saying that and acknowledging that it feels like such a treat, And so I'm waking up every day at the moment, like I get to, like, Monday morning this week, I got up at 5 a.m., got to Richmond Park for sunrise, and I do wildlife photography. I was photographing the wild deer in Richmond Park as the sun rose. And honestly, I mean, this smile on my face, I was just like, pinch me now. Is this my Monday morning? I would have been at a desk and in meetings for the whole day back to back and doing about 10 steps around the office, right? And here I am doing what lights me up inside. What a privilege. Now, how long I can sustain this period of experimentation for without income is another more realistic question to tackle, personally. But for the meantime, it feels like a huge honor. And every day I am incredibly grateful for this transition period.
It's amazing. It reminds me, I quit my life in London when I was about 14 years ago. I bought a camper van and I was like, I'm going to travel around the UK, living and working from a little camper van called Beryl. And I remember the moment where I'd always lived in a city, like always lived in a city. And so I got out of my little camper van. I don't know where I was camping out in the countryside. And I went on this coastal walk on my own. And I had that moment. I was like, that pinch me moment as well. I was like, oh my God, this is my life. This is literally, I can't believe I'm actually living this dream. And I was still working to pay income, and it is important to sort of say that obviously not everyone is going to be, like you say, in a privileged position where they can take that time out, and it doesn't, mean that you have to leave a job with nothing to go to in order to figure it all out. But if you do have the opportunity, and that takes huge amounts of courage, because it's not like you say, you're sitting there looking at your bank account. It's just like, but it's wow, what courage to leap without knowing what you're leaping into. And even if you have the privilege of being able to do it, it's still flipping scary. And it's so funny because often I'll talk to people. Sometimes they'll come to me and they have literally just taken that leap. And they'll be like, I really thought I'd enjoy it more, because we think all we want is freedom. We crave that freedom. But sometimes having the world as your oyster and not knowing what direction to go in, where to go, or where you're needed, or where you can be offering value, can feel totally overwhelming and paralyzing. Have you experienced that as well?
Yeah, I think it's really important to talk about, as I said a few minutes ago, we can really idolize and glamorize these big shifts in life without really talking about the reality of what it means behind the scenes. So for me, financial anxiety has been really big. I had been lonely. I'd been grieving this older identity of myself and like really saying goodbye to who this corporate woman who was cool and looked cool, and people I think liked her because of the job and the identity and the place I was going. And like, when you wipe all that away, who are you? I was grieving, missing the people I spent time with. I loved the teams I had across Europe and Asia. I really loved my boss, and lots of different things that you're like, I'm not with those people anymore, and it's not appropriate for me to be speaking with them every day. And so there's lots of stuff that you lose as well as the freedom that you gain. And I'm really keen to talk about that honestly in the work that I'm doing now, because I think otherwise you can be inspired to take a leap and then have quite a rude awakening when you have unstructured weeks with no income,
Yes.
limited income, and very small social circle day to day in terms of who you can engage with professionally. It's a really big life shift.
Yeah, I was going to say actually, yeah, that loss of structure.
Mm.
Because just having that structure that is created for you by the work you have to do, and you turn up and it's like, right, okay, what's on today? And having no structure at all. And it's happened to me as well when I've been in those situations. And I've seen it happen to many other clients over the years where they're just like, wait, I'm like completely untethered without the structure. And then you have to learn how to put in your own structure. And,
Absolutely.
even that I think comes, because again, I think when you're stuck in a job that is misaligned or just really making you miserable, you can dream of, oh my God, wouldn't it be amazing to just not have to go into work? And you imagine how it would feel. And then if you take that courageous leap and arrive at that point, and if you can often find that it doesn't feel in any way how you wanted it to. And it's like, oh no.
We need more people talking about the reality of it. And so I do see that as because I've been privileged enough to be able to make this leap, I feel a deep responsibility to be honest about, okay, what does it actually look like? I
Yeah.
did a video on YouTube last week about the 8 things that I've learned since leaving my corporate job. And most of them were a bit miserable. I'm like, gosh, well, I wish I'd known this beforehand. And I wish I'd done this preparation. And I wish I'd thought about, my identity a little bit more. And I'd done this prep work. And there's, it's not all rainbows and, daytime walks and turning on This Morning and Lorraine and, having a glorious time.
Good old Lorraine. It's all we ever dream of.
Yeah.
But you know what, though? There's part of me that's just like, yeah, but let's also sometimes we need to believe that it's, I can leap over here because maybe we wouldn't do it otherwise. If I was standing there saying to people, oof, I mean, good luck, because like the lack of structure, the financial anxiety, then people be like, oh well, maybe I'll just stay where I'm here. And I'm like, no, come on, you can go for it. And then once they're in there, I'm like, oh yes, well, currently, and it's temporary. And I will emphasize that. I think the other thing is really important to emphasize is as and when you do take that kind of leap and you're like, whoa, this isn't feeling how I expected it to, that is also temporary. And it's not a sign that you've made a mistake. It's a sign that we are inbuilt to find the unknown. Absolutely terrifying. I remember reading years and years ago, and I love it so much, that in our old maps of any part of the world, any uncharted territory, they would just put a big dragon and then say, here there be dragons. Like,
wow.
Just immediately assumed that what we don't know is definitely full of danger.
And it's true. I mean, gosh, that is true of so many ways that cultures look at other cultures and people look at other people as well, in terms of like the unknown is dangerous. I mean, it's just such a destructive way of thinking.
But it is so inbuilt. And it's like, that's why exactly. In all these different scenarios, we label the unknown as dangerous. Like, cover it, keep out, just don't go there. It's terrifying. So I think it's really important to recognize how, even when it's change that we want, even when it's change that we've chosen to leap into, it is, I mean, at best discombobulating.
Yes.
But, at its worst moments,
yeah,
just paralyzing and terrifying and exciting in equal measure.
Absolutely. And that's the thing. It's an emotional bundle, and it's not like one day you're like, I feel paralyzed, the next day you're like, I'm inspired. It's just like in the minutes of the day to day. And I would say it's this emotional mess, but the overriding sense is that I'm really excited about what's coming. And I feel like I've made the right decision. And there's a lot involved that in terms of like, I also feel a lot of grief and sadness and all that stuff. But my overarching sense is I'm really excited about the direction that my life is taking, the people I'm surrounding myself with, the impact that I may go on to have, the fun I'm going to have, like I feel really aligned with my passions and what I'm on this earth to do. So yeah, let's see. This is literally, I mean, we're on week 9, Selena, so we're early days. Let's see.
But I do think there is, and I've been seeing people go on these journeys coming up to 20 years now. And I just, you see when people get their compass heading in the right direction, and they come alive in a way that you just know this is right, and it's terrifying and it's scary because it's all unknown and who knows. But I think it's that alignment, it's the recognizing that you're on a path. This makes me feel really alive, and there's something in me that just really believes that this is the right direction, and you're allowing yourself to see how it evolves. And I will say this, it's so important to grieve the loss and things like that. But what often happens is people, when they leave that identity, particularly corporate world identity, is they throw the baby out with the bathwater. And then there's a process of recovery of going, well, actually, what are the aspects of that I really enjoyed? Was it having team? Were there certain ways of making deals? Actually, I could take that and this could really work well. And you're already talking about working with brands. So that for sure will be, I bet all of that experience is coming in really handy. And then actually there's no part that you have to leave behind that you don't want to. Obviously, the day-to-day chatting with that particular team, it might not be something you can have exactly as that with those people, but that sense of team, and you can go, actually, these are bits that I do want to carry through with me. You don't have to, wave goodbye to the whole lot of it. But that's part of the journey as well. I mean, I've always said,
I love you really eloquently described the sense of like rooting your compass.
Yeah.
And I feel like at the moment, the trajectory of life, in terms of my life, has shifted dramatically, but this trajectory feels like it's going to lead to the kind of impact that I'm looking for and that I'm meant to be here to give. So I really feel that sense of rootedness.
Exactly.
That's right.
It's having that, it's the compass, and I think we're so used to rooting ourselves in status and position and jobs and being at a certain stage in life and having things, and actually it's getting that compass right. And then you don't have to be so fixed on what the future's going to look like. You don't have to be going after those extrinsic goals so much, because you're like, oh no, this is good, so let's see where it takes me, rather than like, I want to go there and I need to make that happen. There can be elements of that as well when you have vision. But oh my God, Dani, I just feel so alive listening to you.
I've really enjoyed this chat. It's really lovely to chat through. And, I've been, as I mentioned, that, I've been really inspired by the work that you're doing with Hello Goodbye. And, these books have been part of the toolkit that have got me to this point, and to allow enough introspection and reflection to actually make some moves. So I want to thank you, Selena, for all of the work that you put in. And I know it's a lot to make all this happen. And I'm excited to receive my 2026 book and get on the road and figure out what's to come. Who knows?
I'm excited to see what is going to be filled into that journal. And of course, it's going to be so beautiful. At the end, we've got the time to reflect, looking right back on the year and the things that we wrote in the journal, and being able for you to say, wow, when I wrote in the start of the year that my intention was for intrepidity, and now who could have seen that? And it's about looking at how we can be the artists of our own lives, and the magic of setting intentions, and how, those commitments. And it's, that's going to be a powerful one, just to see how you've made this happen. What an incredibly inspiring journey. So final thing I would say is, for anyone else who is feeling like they're really out of alignment with their work, particularly if it's whether it is something that on paper looks like a dream job or whether it's not, what would be your tips on what to do about that? Where to begin?
Oh, okay. I think what is really key is to sit with it for long enough that you know that it's not a rash decision. That would be really important for me to say first, because I think sometimes these decisions can be made too quickly. And I'm really glad that I held on. 14 years is a long time, but that I held on in the last few years, as I've been writing my book. Oh, I'm feeling drawn into this direction. I want to have more impact in this way. I couldn't have left a moment sooner, because it was only then that I knew that it was the right time for me to make a shift. And so I think really getting curious about your feelings and how your perspective on your situation is changing. And then also looking at your environment and figuring out, is it actually that thing, or is there other stuff in life that you can address as well? And then getting curious around your passion areas and starting to do that really interesting, exciting work on, okay, well, if not this, what else could it be? Where else might have more fulfillment or more excitement or more financially, whatever it is that you're trying to ladder up into. And then I think the other thing I would say is, increasingly as I'm having this conversation with people, thinking less about in like a binary black and white mindset of okay, well, it's not this job, then it must be another one.
Yeah.
Increasingly, with portfolio careers, if it's not this job, what other ways can you patchwork together a career that actually might fill the gaps and tick the boxes of other, the things that you think you're missing?
Yeah.
And I hadn't really considered what a portfolio career would look like until I left my job and realized that's probably what I was going to fall into. And that would be my other recommendation, is to try and take away the binary lens of what, a lot of the corporate culture can put on us, and actually think creatively around the life that you might want to lead.
A book you must read if you haven't already is Be a Free Range Human by Marianne Cantwell. Oh my God, it's so perfect for you. I do feature quite heavily in it.
Okay,
we work a lot together. I'm not just saying for that reason. It will really reinforce, what you're doing and this path you've taken. That's beautiful advice. I can really see you helping other people. Have you come across Escape the City?
Yes.
Yeah, they're all about escaping the corporate cage and doing something different. I think I was in their book once as well.
Oh,
yeah. I've been helping people get out of that world for a long
20 years.
Yeah, literally 20 years. Where can people find you? First of all, where's the YouTube channel that they can go to?
Well, it's just at Dani Rayner, which is my name, DaniRayner. And that's me on all platforms. So I've just kicked off on YouTube 8 weeks ago. So I'm doing weekly videos every Friday. Instagram and LinkedIn and TikTok, all the same name. And yeah, on those different 3 strands of life, the presenting, the consulting, and the speaking, just speaking with folks in my DMs and email about all different strands. And then we'll just see how it goes. I'm open to what comes, and have deep faith and trust that it will unfold in the way it needs to. And probably one of those pillars will become the leading one. But let's see. I'm on a wild adventure.
You really are. And I am so excited to watch and witness and cheer you on. And well done. Well done. What an amazing journey. And what an inspiring story as well. And it's beautiful you to be sharing that story as you go, because that is one of the most important things for, like you say, people to see the reality of a journey like that, of, but going from caterpillar to butterfly, however we want to use the analogy. But yeah, I absolutely love it. Thank you so much for coming and sharing your story. It's so brilliant. You've filled me up.
It's a pleasure. And honestly, you've done such great work with these. I treasure them. And as I said, looking forward to having a 4th one in the collection very soon.
Oh, thank you. Wasn't that such an inspiring conversation? I hope you loved it too. So if you're feeling ready to make a big change in your life, whether it's a career change or any other kind of change, make sure you order your Goodbye 2025 Hello 2026 journal today and use it to help guide you and keep you grounded through a year of change in the year to come.